Hey everyone, so this week we are reviewing books here on Totally Booksessed, and I am reviewing Eve and Adam by Michael Grant and Katherine Applegate. Now this is the story of Eve, Evening Spiker, who is hit by a car, and it severs her leg, severely damages one of her arms, as well as her ribs and her face, and oh, she's just messed up. So she goes through a 14-hour surgery to get her leg reattached and to remove one of her ribs, which was just a mess. And she went through this huge process, and as soon as she got out of the surgery, her mom, Tara Spiker, kind of showed up and said, "Screw you," to the doctors, and took Eve out of the hospital and moved her to her research facility, Spiker Biopharmaceuticals. Now, she put her in the care of the doctor there, and she basically told Eve, "You're not allowed to see any friends, you're kind of under my control, you have to stay here, and you have to do what I tell you." And so Eve got bored very quickly, and so her mom decided to give her this project, and she set her up with this new system that they'd created and told her to create the perfect male. And so Eve sets out to create Adam using this software. And along the way, with the help of this guy, Solo, who lives at the facility, she discovers some things about herself, her mom's facility, and a bunch of other crazy stuff. And it makes for quite an interesting story. So, first up, this is written by two authors. Normally, I don't really like books that are co-written. The problem with these kind of books is that usually you can really tell the difference in the writing styles between the authors, and they just don't flow well, but that was not the case with this book at all. I could not tell the difference between the authors, between chapters. I mean, it really just seemed like it was one writer, which I really enjoyed. Now, there were problems with the writing, however. At times, Eve's thoughts were a little disjointed. She'd be thinking about one thing 1 second, and then the next section she'd be thinking about something at the opposite end of the spectrum, and I'd have no idea how she got where she got. It also happened with some of the story a little bit. There would be jumps from paragraph to paragraph, and I think I'd missed something just because it seemed really illogical to go from this paragraph to this paragraph. So there were some things that bothered me. I just had to double check and make sure I wasn't missing anything along the way, but it wasn't really enough to make me dislike the book. The story itself is really fascinating. From the very first page, the first page is when Eve gets hit by the car. And I was like, whoa, like, she talks about losing her leg and, like, seeing it, like, as a stump. And I'm like, okay, I'm hooked. I admit it, I was. It was disgusting, and it had my full attention. And I barely set this book down through the whole book. I mean, I read probably to, like, page 250 the first night, and then I had to go to bed, and then I read the rest at work. So it's an addicting story, and there are some surprises. Some things didn't come as surprises to me, but they might to you. There were some predictable things, but there were some very unpredictable things, which I really enjoyed. As for the characters, Eve, Solo, I've already forgot the name of Eve's friend. Oh gosh, I can't remember. I don't know. I think it's like on the first page. I'm really bad with names, but yeah, whatever. Clearly her friend was not that important to me because I can't remember her name, but Eve and Solo are the real big players in this book, as well as Tara, who's Eve's mom, and Adam, who Eve creates. And yeah, things are odd. Eve is a little too naive for me. She was a pretty well-rounded character. I did like her, but there were times I just wanted to smack her and be like, how did you not see that coming? Like, Solo revealed a lot to her about her mom and her mom's facility, and I was like, that's kind of obvious. Like, have you looked at things going on around you? She just didn't pay attention to her surroundings enough for me to like her 100%. And then, as far as Solo was concerned, he was a little naive too. Like, he kind of tried to put the pieces together, but it was like they didn't quite fit where they were supposed to be. And I could tell that there were some gaps where he couldn't. So readers can kind of see things coming before the characters, but I thought Eve and Solo were good together. They were quite funny, especially Solo. He was very arrogant and cocky, and I know a lot of people didn't like him for that, but I really did. And then there's Adam. Adam really had no personality, and he's not in the book enough for me to really tell you guys whether or not I liked him. Same with Tara. She came off as this total bitch, and she didn't really get better, so I didn't really care for her. But the main characters, and even Eve's friend, whose name I can't remember, she was pretty cool. So characters are good. As for everything else, it was good. My one problem with this book is that at the end, I read this little line. The story will continue in Adam and Eve. There is no need for a sequel to this book. Pretty much everything is tied up perfectly at the end. The romance is tied up, the family stuff is tied up, the friend stuff is tied up, the mystery stuff is tied up. Everything is just done. So I'm not sure where they're going to go with this sequel. I mean, this was kind of like a happy ending for all the characters, and I feel like they're going to do what Cassandra Clare did with the Mortal Instruments series and tear apart the happy ending so that they can make another book when there's no need for one. So yeah, I am not really looking forward to the series, but the first book is very good. You can read it as a standalone if you're like me and probably don't want to read the sequel. I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars. So definitely check it out. It's a really quick read. You'll probably finish it in a night. So that's it for me today. I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll see you next week.